Domestic violence and abuse can happen to anyone, regardless of your gender, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, income, or any other factor.
Whether it was Lakewood or another city, the numbers that people are usually aware of, of how many people are being victimized are always extremely low because most people don't report these crimes. I would say anything that's psychological or emotional in nature, people tend to think of less, because when you think of abuse, you tend to picture, physical violence or things of that nature, but even more prevalent than physical violence would definitely be psychological and emotional abuse, and that's something that a lot of children experience growing up.
He felt that he needed to control me, and therefore he used the tactic of, you're less than. You're not pretty, you're fat, you are extremely unintelligent. And anytime there would be something that would happen that he could hone in on and use that to say, see, you're stupid, or however, then that's what he would do.
Children who live in homes where there is domestic violence suffer abuse or neglect at higher rates. My teacher, Miss Moss, began to take a special interest in me. She began by questioning me about my attentiveness. I lied, saying I had stayed up late watching television. My lies were not convincing, and she continued to pry not only about why I was sleepy, but also about the condition of my clothes and the bruises on my body. My mother always coached me on what to say about my appearance, so I simply passed Mother's story to the teacher.
If a child is really struggling with their schoolwork, if their behavior is significantly different than it was in the past, maybe if they were an outgoing child and they're becoming more reserved, more quiet, and isolating themselves. So any huge changes in personality or behavior are always a big red flag, whether it's abuse or another issue that someone's experiencing.
It got to the point where I was quite thin. I'm about 5'7", and I was down to probably 118, which is pretty thin. Then I realized that I really liked food a lot, and it also helped me to cope with all the things that were happening. Therefore, I started using food, but instead of restricting, I used food by binging and then purging.
As a child, I'd usually steal time to look into the mirror and yell at myself for whatever I did wrong that had made my mother despise me so much. I had hated everything about myself, how I looked, how I stuttered, everything. Back then, I so desperately wanted to somehow transfer myself to the other side of the mirror. But as I grew and became aware of my situation as Mother's prisoner, I knew I could never rid myself of that person in the mirror. For that reason, I still refuse to look at myself in a mirror.